So I was actually pretty young when I started this entire collection. I was in 7th grade at the time. I was actually reading Time magazine about the 60th anniversary of D-Day. So when I was reading through this magazine, I was so taken in by what these men and women had to do on D-Day and just the sheer scale of it. It really drew me in, and I was hooked for life. My first artifact was literally a week after I read that Time magazine article. It was actually at a Cape May antique show. There was a little purple heart there with somebody's name on the back, and it was actually $20. So I figured, well, this will be my first artifact, so I went there and bought it, and ever since I've been hooked. Patriot preservation emphasizes the role of remembering history through artifacts and museums. So Patriot Preservation actually has currently 3 exhibits on loan: the American Destiny exhibit, the Terror and Tundra exhibit about the war in Alaska during World War II, and Shutters on the Battlefield. Each one of these exhibits has between 40 and 100 artifacts, depending on the theme. And Patriot Preservation rents these out to prospective museums or universities or anybody that wants to rent them out. The company also emphasizes on the importance of speaking engagements as well. So through me, I basically will go around and speak at historical societies, universities, or even museums. The most recent artifact that has been acquired by the museum is the Japanese samurai saber from Iwo Jima. This veteran actually passed away a couple years ago, but the collection recently got a hold of the samurai sword itself, his silver star from Iwo Jima, all of his dog tags that he had, all the newspaper articles about him. I really wish I had a chance to talk with him one-on-one. The artifacts themselves were very documented, but I just wish I could really talk with him about that night. He picked up the samurai sword during the last day of the Battle of Iwo Jima. As far as the stories that are untold through American history, and specifically World War II, it's going to have to do with the Pacific, because most of the movies that are shown today, or the documentaries or whatever, they're going to be about the war in Europe. They're going to be about the fight against Hitler and Nazism. Very little is explained about what happened in the Pacific. You had 115 D-Days in the Pacific alone. A lot of these island names have been forgotten by history, and some of these islands are completely desolate today. I'm just noticing that as far as teaching the younger generations. The younger generations are not as acquainted with what happened in the Pacific. The veterans I've talked to as well have acknowledged this, that, you know, they'll talk with people, you know, even people that are, you know, either middle-aged or they're younger, and they'll talk about places they've been, such as Guadalcanal or Tarawa, and people will just say, "Where's that?" They have no idea. They have no idea these places even existed. And these were major turning points in American history. And I felt that when I was talking with them, that they really wanted these stories told before they're forgotten. So the Terror and Tundra exhibit is based upon America's war in Alaska, a very uncovered topic in American history. Japan invades Alaska in 1942, 2 islands, Attu and Kiska, and the United States would come back in 1943 to reconquer these islands. And this is just a story that no one is reading about, no one is hearing about. So, based upon what the veterans that survived those campaigns told me, I felt this desire to start telling the story through the artifacts I have. The exhibit itself has roughly about 150 artifacts to choose from in that exhibit. Personally, I think it brings out a bigger story. This is something that belonged to somebody in probably the most turbulent time in their entire life. So when it is named, there's a potential to research that person's life and what they did during the war. So you can almost piece together this story that's been lost for 60 or 70 years. The veteran themselves may be gone, but when you start to do the research, you can actually start to pull this story back together. I would say one of the most important artifacts in the entire collection has to be a recent acquisition. It's a concentration camp flag from the Gunskirchenlager concentration camp in Austria. When this gentleman found it, it was actually in the SS headquarters right up the road. So when he actually liberated the town of Lambach, Austria, he actually stayed the night in the town hall just up the road. And when he was sleeping there, he noticed a draft of air coming from the wall, and he figured, well, I'm gonna go check this out. So he takes his knife and actually cuts open the side of this wall, and there was a secret entrance on the other side. And he goes in, and there's SS caps, there's this flag folded on the counter, and there's a shortwave radio and the windows open. So he makes it his business to take this flag, fold it up, and put it in his bag, not thinking much of it. And literally the very next day, right up the road, is this concentration camp for any kind of what the Third Reich would consider undesirables, Jews, Gypsies, Poles. And it really started to dawn on him, what they had been fighting for. So I think the fact that he discovered that meaning of why they were fighting as he's picking up this flag is really what drives home the importance of that piece. I want people to truly have a learning experience, because it's one thing when you're learning through reading a book or even watching a documentary. It becomes so much more real when that piece is in front of you and you can see the stains of battle still on that piece. It's going to become a lot more of a human experience when you see that up close.